Hey, good evening, everybody. Welcome out to tonight's trading webinar. It's great to have you. This is our free webinar that we do for all of the investors out there, and one that we like to invite everybody to attend.
Yeah, we do this webinar about once a month or so, and we like to do it on different topics about tax lien and deed investings, just to let new investors know, people that are interested in tax liens and deeds, a little bit more about it and how to get started doing it.
Yeah, which we're grateful that you've come and decided to spend the time with us. We want to talk today about probably one of the fastest growing aspects of tax sale investing, and that is the online auction aspect of it.
Yeah, definitely. Well, and with some of the events that have happened over the last few months, we could see, or at least see evidence of more and more counties eventually moving over to online auctions quicker than they may have, on their own.
Yeah, certainly we saw a lot of counties, make the decision just recently to switch over, and we've seen a consistent number of counties, that have been moving over to online auctions. In fact, it's interesting just how the progression of online auctions has kind of worked out over the last 10 to 15 years.
Yeah, so today we want to kind of go through and talk a little bit about online auctions, explain some of the different companies, and kind of just let you guys know how the online auctions work.
Yeah. Now, before we do that, if you don't know who we are, my name is Ferre, and of course Stephen Swenson's here next to me, and we've been doing this for I guess it started about 20 years ago, over 20 years ago now.
Yeah, exactly. We first we're actually cousins, and I was a real estate agent, and we attended my first auction because my broker invited me out to it. And me and Shade were both interested in real estate at the time, and so at that time we started trying to learn everything that we could about it.
Yeah, which that led to us trying to get a lot of training out there, but ultimately we didn't learn from that. What we learned from was from attending auctions and starting to break down individual states. And we eventually created a training program around 2007 that we started to sell through the seminar companies.
Yeah, and we did that for 9 or 10 years, but eventually we decided to quit working with the seminar companies, and we decided to offer just our program online to the general public. And so that's where we opened up tax sale support and essentially took the program that the seminar companies were selling and just made it available online for a low monthly fee.
Right. Yeah. So that was really the beginning of taxsalesupport.com, and since then, we've got a lot of students that we've worked with, and really we've had a lot of great success stories, I think, that have come as a result of it.
Yeah. In fact, here's one of our success stories from one of our students, and the reason we decided to show this one is just to show that you don't need to have thousands of dollars necessarily to get started.
Yeah.
Helen here says, "Hey, I'm happy to report I just sold my first property. I purchased the building lot for $200 and sold it for $2,500. Want to thank you for all your support as a member of your coaching program. I'm so happy. I could have not done this without the education from your coaches." She looks forward to doing more deals this year, and she's already doing more deals.
Yeah. In fact, I think that in the beginning when we were working with people, a lot of the people we worked with didn't have a lot of capital, and that kind of affected or changed how we went about trying to help them.
Yeah.
And so, there's certainly ways that you can invest and do it and make it work, even if you don't have a ton of money, just if you're smart about how you get started.
Yeah, there's a lot of opportunity. In fact, really there's two buying methods that you can use to purchase tax liens and deeds.
Yeah, well, and really it's going to come down to one or the other. You're either buying from an auction in one form or you're buying over the counter, but it's usually going to be one or the other. The question with auctions is now whether it's an on-site or an online auction. But really, aside from these two primary methods, this is how nearly all tax liens and deeds are sold.
Yeah, exactly. Either you're going to buy it there at the auction, or if it doesn't sell and the county offers it after the auction, will offer the investments after the auction, then you can do it that way through over the counter. But every single tax sale property is going to go through an auction before they do anything.
Yeah, they're going to end up going through the auction, and that's where some of the best opportunities to purchase are going to be. It's going to be found at the auction.
Higher quality.
Yeah, the higher quality, that's where the first chance, to purchase these properties comes. And so, granted, a lot of them get purchased, there. And then if they don't get purchased there is where they end up over the counter. So really, the auctions are an important aspect of it. And as investors, participating in the auctions is something else that you've got to do as well. It's a numbers game.
Yeah, exactly. When it comes to online auctions, the more opportunities we give ourselves to purchase tax liens and deeds, the better our chances. And so when it comes to online auctions, like Shade said, we really call it a numbers game. We may need to bid on several properties in a tax deed auction to get one at the price that we want.
Oh yeah, and by the way, everybody, yeah, this will be recorded and made available later. We always record these, and so you can always catch your replays afterwards.
Yeah.
But yeah, really, the online auctions that we started with seeing were in Florida and Arizona originally, were the states where we started to see the very first online auctions. But from there, what we've seen happen since then has been a pretty steady growth, and we're going to be able to cover exactly who the companies are, who they provide sales for, and kind of help you make sense of exactly how the auction systems work in various places.
Yeah, and also in doing that, we'll go over what different states, have online auction opportunities. And one thing that we're seeing is that counties are moving over to online auctions. For example, Texas is a state that up until recently has never had online auctions, and they're a state that has tax sales, in some of these counties every single month.
Yeah, they've had tons of opportunity there, but in the past, the biggest hangup has been that you have to be there in person for pretty much all of their sales. But yeah, we've started to see, quite a few counties that are, they're placing their sales online, which is going to open that opportunity to a lot of other investors and create some great investment opportunities for people that can't attend the sale in person.
Yeah.
So I think that's going to be great. Before we dive into each one of these specific companies, one of the things that we just wanted to reiterate here is something that we harp on all the time. And that is, if you're seriously considering participating in a sale, you need to go through the pre-sale instructions with a fine-tooth comb, because that's where all of the information, they always include it there, and it's easy to overlook things.
Yeah, in fact, our members get tired of listening to it, and our coaching students as well, us talking about going through and reading the rules, any type of facts, any information before the auction, because that's the first place you can make a mistake. We've done this, we've made mistakes on our own, and we had to learn on our own the hard way, and a lot of times, and there could be information in there about taxes, about all kinds of things that you need to know before deciding how much you're going to bid, and even if you're going to participate.
Yeah. In fact, yeah, you could, you don't want to spend a lot of time looking into something that you don't have the ability to participate in.
Yeah, even something like a deposit.
Yeah, the deposit date can be one that gets you every time.
Yeah, you could start looking and researching property and spend hours researching property and find out you had to do the deposit a week ago.
Yeah. So first, we're going to talk about some of the different platforms that are out there. And first, we'll talk about the difference here between the single county and multi-county platforms. An example of a single county platform or website would be kind of like what Real Auction and some of the other companies do, where they create an actual website for that county's auction. So it might look something kind of like this.
Yeah, they'll have a website that runs year round, even if they only have one tax sale a year. So, each county, in the case of New Jersey, each city will have its own website, and that website will be used for the tax sale, and it'll essentially function all year long.
Yeah, and that's true with both tax liens and tax deeds, can be bought, on these systems.
One thing to quickly add as well is with some of these tax lien online auctions, you can actually purchase the over-the-counter tax liens after the auction,
that's right,
using the exact same website. So, if they do offer over-the-counters, they may offer it right there on one of these online websites.
Yeah, so basically the auction site turns into their over-the-counter inventory after the sale.
Yeah.
Now, the other type is a multi-county website, which is one that where you have one provider that is offering the service for a variety of areas. Like Bid for Assets is a good example, but there's lots of websites kind of like it that that can host auctions.
Yeah, these websites are almost like an eBay for government auctions. So Bid for Assets, for example, will offer all kinds of different items through government auctions, and these different types of websites will also offer tax sale properties. So they may have multiple counties, multiple states, but you're essentially going to one website for any of these different counties or auctions.
Yeah. By the way, we're going to go into a lot greater depth too in each one of these as we kind of talk about exactly who they are and how they work. So let's also talk about the single state versus multi-state providers, because there are both.
Yeah, the single state providers have essentially built an auction website only used for that state's online auctions. So these will usually be state specific. So they will be, for example, Wisconsin has one where they will offer, tax sale properties along with some of their other governmental surplus.
Yeah, I think it's like Wisconsin surplus.
Yeah.
In fact, we'll pull it up here in a minute. But another one could be like Michigan's, which is tax-sale.info.
Yeah, exactly.
That's their site where they pretty well handle all of the stuff through there, and that's very state specific, a single state.
Yeah. With a multi-state provider, they essentially can use both single county and multi-county websites.
Yeah, and so somewhere we have multi-county providers here. In fact, why don't we take a look?
They can offer both tax liens and tax deeds. They can do a single state like Florida and New Jersey. These are really kind of the big companies.
Yeah, the big companies, the big national companies that provide. Most of these provide for more than one state. In fact, most of these all provide for multiple, and some of them have quite a few states. They have agreements with. Now, one thing that's interesting about this choice is that it's one that comes down to a county or local government level on probably every time, and that's why it hasn't been very smooth. That's why you kind of see it happening the way it does.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's the reason we can see different states. Florida uses 2 or 3 different providers.
Yeah.
So they're kind of competing against each other with each one of these companies that we're going to go through.
Yeah, so some of the multi-state providers that we're going to talk about today, we've got Bid for Assets, realauction.com, we've got Grand Street Group, Civic Source, and Zeus Auctions.
Now, Bid for Assets, like we mentioned, they're kind of the eBay for government auctions, but they handle a lot of different states, including California, Washington, Idaho, Nevada, and Michigan, and they've also handled occasionally other states as well.
Yeah, and we've got an example right here of a tax deed from Washington.
Yeah, this is just just under a half an acre building lot. It was valued around $60,000. It was picked up through a Bid for Asset auction for around $3,300. So, plenty of profitability in this buildable lot. In fact, you can see that basketball court right to the right of it is one of the other homes. And so, it's really a nice kind of building lot where you can build your home kind of down, onto that lot.
Yeah, great example of some of the kinds of properties that we'll find in tax sales and go after. Yeah, Real Auction is another company. They're one of the big companies when it comes to certain areas. They actually provide the tax lien auctions and tax deed auctions for several states. When it comes to their lien auctions, they have it for Florida, but they also have all these other states: Arizona, Colorado, Illinois, Maryland, Nebraska, New Jersey.
Yeah, they really are probably one of the biggest companies, or the biggest company. You can see just the list of tax lien auctions. Plus, they have tax deed auctions in Florida, which they've had a long time. But they've recently added Ohio tax sales and Texas tax sales to their list. And so they're going to start working these Ohio counties and these Texas counties to get them to add them, to get the county to use their online systems and software and websites.
Yeah, and hopefully we'll see more counties switch over to it.
Yeah.
Because it will just mean more opportunity. But Yeah, as of right now, though, they do have a lot of new opportunities here, and here's a couple of examples here that are from real auction.
Yeah, these are purchased through a real auction, tax deed auction there in Florida. And, you know, you can see the first property was a 3-bedroom, 2-bath home picked up for 10 grand, had a value of 52. And then the property on the bottom was a 3-bedroom, 1-bath valued at 85 that was picked up for 20.
Yeah. You know, and in both cases, you know, they're bought in order to be able to acquire the properties at the prices you want, or at least the kind of prices that we want. It takes, you know, often multiple attempts to win these properties because you're not always going to be able to win it at these kinds of prices.
Yeah, exactly. When we're bidding and winning these properties here that we're looking at, you know, we would bid on anywhere between 4 to 6 different properties or homes before getting one at the price that we want. So we let 5 or 6 go for every property that we were able to acquire. But when we do acquire the property, we acquire at the price that we want. And that's the reason we say it's a bit of a numbers game, at least with some of these tax deed auctions.
Yeah, sorry, I jumped ahead there on accident. But yeah, I think they're both good indications of what you can get in some of the counties, and there's lots of counties in Florida.
Yeah.
Grant Street Group is another company that is fairly large. You know, they also have both tax lien and tax deed auctions. You know, although the majority of what they do a lot of stuff in Florida. They also have Arizona and Maryland and California.
Yeah, Grant Street Group and Real Auction are a little bit like Coke and Pepsi. You know, they kind of do the same thing. They both offer, you know, their own website for each one of the counties. They both compete for Florida, you know, the Florida tax lien and deed auctions. Of course, they have Arizona and Maryland as well, which they both kind of compete for those states. But one thing that they do have, which is unique, and Real Auction doesn't have, is they have a number of California counties that will use their auction software.
Yeah.
So, you know, really when it comes to California, it's going to be Grant Street Group and Bid for Assets.
Yeah, really, Grant Street Group is the only company that's really got some kind of an arrangement other than Bid for Assets, you know, to do that. We haven't seen it in California at all.
These are just some tax liens that were purchased, you know, through the, these were actually over the counter, but essentially purchased through, this is actually purchased through Grant Street Group auctions, but after the sale.
Yeah.
So we were able to go through the over the counters and find properties that had been neglected, and we're able to pick up some pretty good tax liens that way.
Well, and also, just so you know and understand too, when it comes to buying tax liens in Florida, you know, you're not going to be able to find great deals just at any time. You know, we were able to, you know, I think these were picked up right after the sale, you know, when they were, you know, when they were still good over-the-counter inventory that was available, and you know that's only available for a short time, and then it's gone.
Yeah, and really, there's only going to be, you know, there'll be a few overlooked properties, and then there'll be some lower tax liens that you can pick up that are good values. But really, like Shade said, you know, getting those over the counter as soon as they become available. But Grant Street Group, like Real Auction, will offer their over the counters online. And from what we've seen, there was actually less people going to the Grant Street Group over the counter than the Real Auction.
Yeah, I think there were good opportunities there. Civic Source is another company that represents or has agreements with certain states, Louisiana primarily, but they also have some for Mississippi, Missouri, and Tennessee.
Yeah, they actually do some of what we call redemption deed states there in Louisiana and Tennessee, and then offer, you know, some type of property auctions as well with some of the Mississippi and Missouri sales they had.
Yeah. You know, Zeus Auctions is really kind of like the one we just showed, but for a couple of other states. It seems like Iowa primarily, or is Indiana primarily?
Yeah, well, it's part of SRI Auctions, which does a lot of the Indiana tax sales. They do a couple other tax sales, Pennsylvania, some of the other things, but they have their online auction system where they do all of Iowa auctions. So Iowa's, in a way, Iowa is actually kind of a single state provider because it's just one website. But, you know, a lot of the Indiana sales, they also do Colorado, Louisiana sales, and they're adding clients. They're trying to add clients, all these companies are trying to grow.
Yeah, so a lot of times what it comes down to is if you want to work in certain areas, you have to go through the companies that have the agreements to provide the properties in those areas.
Yeah, there's a few different companies or a few states that'll have more than one company, but a lot of states will just have one company.
Yeah, kind of like these. So these are some of the different single state provider sites, that we know of. Tax-sale.info that I mentioned earlier for Michigan, and they actually have more than that. It seems like don't they've got another land bank site too.
Yeah.
I guess there's a bunch of land bank sites in general.
Yeah, there's quite a few, but this is their primary auction website.
Yeah. Also NYS auctions, they're another. And that's primarily for New York. For South Carolina, we've got terryhowe.com that offers a lot of the properties through that site.
Yeah, in fact, Terry Howe is a little, we call it a single state provider, but it's actually a little bit more than that because
it's kind of like bid for assets.
Yeah, they've kind of done some of those auctions there in the South. So, in some of those areas, Georgia, some of the states, they'll do it as well, but they're primarily located in South Carolina and they offer South Carolina properties. Wisconsin surplus we talked about. Iowa tax auction is where all of the Iowa online auctions are. And then Florida tax sales is actually kind of like Real Auction and Grand Street Group a bit, where they offer tax lien websites for tax lien auctions, but only Florida, and they tend to be kind of the smallest counties. The small counties use Florida tax sales.
Yeah, and they do have several. They've got quite a few they represent.
Yeah, it's actually a good place to bid because they are smaller company, less overlooked, smaller counties, but you're still earning. When it comes to Florida tax liens, you're not getting the property.
Yeah,
we talked about that last month. We actually did a Florida webinar where we kind of went through and talked about how Florida tax liens work, where, the lien holder fills out a deed application and it goes to the deed sale.
Yeah, and how really in Florida, when it comes to lien investing, you're just not going to end up with the property, especially, if the property has any use and value to it at all, it's going to probably sell at auction.
Yeah.
So, or it'll redeem, long before then. But there are lots of places out there that do foreclose on properties, or the liens can result in foreclosure. Michigan's deed state and tax-sale.info, these are a couple properties that were acquired through that site.
Yeah, these were some properties that were acquired by some of our coaching students this last year through tax-sale.info. And so, in fact, they would have already had their list out, but because of the backup with the coronavirus, they postponed it a little bit, but they're going to start putting their list out mid-July.
Yeah.
So we're just a couple weeks away from being able to start looking through some of these lists there in Michigan.
Yeah. Now let's see here. Now before we go and look at some of these different companies, some of what they have to offer, there are a couple simple steps to online investing, and that is, once you understand that there's an auction you're going to participate in, you need to go through the registration process, and from there we're going to talk about each one of these briefly, but this is kind of an important part here in the beginning.
Yeah, registration, may have a certain deadline that you need to have it done by. It's going to be one of the first things that you're going to need to check on, and usually it can be done pretty quickly. Sometimes they'll have online registrations. You may need to fill out a form and send it in. If we're talking about an online auction, though, it's really pretty simple, and it's just going to be done right there on the website.
Yeah. Now,
one thing as well about, though, is the deposit.
Yeah, the deposit is something that that most of the online auction companies are going to require, and it's how they differentiate between people that are serious about it and people that aren't. So oftentimes it's going to be based on a percentage of how much you want to spend.
Yeah, sometimes they, like bid for assets, they've had a certain amount, like a $2,500 or something like that on some of the deed sales. But like Shade said, in a lot of the real auctions, Grand Street groups, they'll require you to put 5 to 10% down of what you plan to invest. So if you plan on investing 20 grand, you're going to need to put, probably, between $1,000 to $2,000 down.
Yeah. And also, it's not a bad idea to, especially with some of these counties that have regular sales, to keep a deposit rolling in that county's auctions, so you can participate in auctions without needing to try to get a deposit resubmitted. especially, if you don't have success with it, in the
Yeah.
auction, because it only makes sense, to keep trying.
Well, and that's particular could be in states like Florida or Texas, where they have repeated sales every month or almost every single month, where you are kind of playing the long game and waiting and bidding on property until you're able to get one at the price you want. Because with online auctions, there's always going to be a little bit more competition than there is with like a live auction.
Yeah, definitely. Now, once you are set up and able to be registered for the sale, you can start a lot of your more in-depth due diligence on the property. And that is, before you really invest a lot of time, you want to make sure that you can participate in the auction. But once you can begin to perform the property research. Now, we perform property research in stages with due diligence based on how much we're investing and based on the type of property that we're investing in. And stages can go all the way from basic research that we can do online, all the way up to on-site evaluations and having title searches performed.
Yeah. Now, when it comes to tax lien investing, we're usually able to do all of that just based on the online information. Because with tax liens, you've got a 95% chance of paying it back. The investor redeeming. If not, you're getting a great property. So as long as you buy good tax liens, they're mostly like going to redeem. If not, you're going to get a good property. So just based off the county records, based off maybe some property evaluations, checking on Zillow, we can usually decide to purchase a tax lien that way. But like Shade said, with tax deeds, we've got to go through multiple steps because we are buying real estate.
Yeah, and when we're buying real estate, there's added levels of due diligence that we need to employ, including if we're buying something like a structured property, we're going to have boots on the ground to do some kind of an on-site evaluation. And so we have steps that we'll go through, and that just make sure that our due diligence is always that it's based on the size of the investment, how much we're spending, and the type of investment that it is.
Yeah, exactly. Once we've went ahead and determined that we're going to bid on the property, then we're going to go ahead and bid at the auction. Now, the one thing about bidding at an online auction, even though it's online, you can still become what we call an emotional bidder, where you could end up bidding more than you've preset your determined. So that's the reason it's so important that you decide exactly how much you're willing to pay for it, and then stick to that and let properties go that go above that.
In some ways, it's almost easier to become emotional about your bidding there because it's just a click away. It's so easy. It's very easy when you're not, you don't have to stick your hand up.
Yeah.
You don't have to really do anything that big that that brings notice. But yeah, I think you have to have preset limits that you stick by. Otherwise, you're going to go and spend more than you should.
Yeah, you're going to set those maximum bids, and even if it hurts, even if the property sells for $100 more than your high bid, you're willing to let those properties go, because if not, you could easily get emotionally involved and end up paying. When we've seen people lose money before in tax sale investing, in fact, this was one of the first lessons we learned as we started attending auctions, is we saw people that got emotionally involved and ended up overpaying for property.
Well, yeah, if you want to see people get emotional, attend live auctions.
Yeah.
Because that's a place where you can actually, see, people getting emotional about their bidding, and you can see that not all the decisions behind the bidding that's happening are based on numbers or anything else of that matter. It's based on emotion a lot of times for some of those people, and you don't want to. Some of those people, are going to be emotional. You can't do anything about that. But what you want to avoid is getting yourself tied up in a battle with somebody that's emotionally involved in the property.
Yeah, exactly. So as long as you set your high limits and you stick to them, you're going to be safe in your investments.
And eventually you're going to win. If you continue to participate, you're going to win them at the prices that you want, and from there it's just a matter of making payment.
Yeah, exactly. Now, most of the auctions are going to require payment within a pretty short time frame. Depending on these online auctions, sometimes they'll give you 24 hours, sometimes 48 hours. You'll usually need to wire transfer that funds, but it'll kind of depend on the auction. That's part of the reason we have number one, go through and register and read the rules, the facts, and all that kind of stuff, because in there it's going to tell you how you need to pay, how quickly you need to pay. And if you plan on bidding at these auctions, then it's more than just a deposit. You need to have those funds ready to be able to send that money in. Otherwise, they could dock you.
Yeah. Yeah. Also, one of the benefits too of buying from the auction is that you're going to get the deed or the lien, if that's what you're buying, faster than you would, let's say, if you're buying like an over-the-counter deed. If you're buying an over-the-counter deed, it may have to go through an approval process, and it could take a few months before you see a deed arrive in the mail. But if you're buying it from the county at the auction, while it can still take a while, it's oftentimes faster.
Yeah, definitely. Well, and also, with some of these auctions, once you purchase the property, even though you don't have the deed, you actually have ownership of the property. So, you could actually go in on some of these auctions like in Florida or whatever and start, if the property is vacant, get into the property.
Oh, yeah.
You could start those things immediately, because once they've done that, they've essentially gone through that process and sold it. Where over the counter, you've kind of got to wait until you get the deed, because you don't know when it's essentially, when this sale happens.
Yeah, definitely. Well, let's go take a look. All right, what we're going to do here. Okay, let's see. Hold on, let me get this thing. Okay, let's go like this. And we can start out. Okay, so we can start out right here. This would be a good place here. On the website, on tax sale support, it includes both training and tax sale lists. So in the tax sale lists, we can go into the online auction section here and then select the type we're going into. So if it's tax deeds that we're looking for, then we can go in here and we can see some of the different companies that and some of the different places that have sales. They're going to be listed alphabetically.
Yeah, in fact, we should start right up there at the top and just kind of quickly go through and show some of the different companies, like, for example, Bid for Assets, which is there in the California area, which is kind of first on the list anyway, and just kind of get an idea and show how it's done.
Oh, look at that. They opened up this one today.
Oh, yeah.
That one's going to be a tax title services auction. Let me see how many they've got there. 105.
Wow, it's big. So, and they have bids starting at $600.
Yeah, I wonder if they've got the list too.
Also, we can see up there at the top, real quick, go back. Oh, underneath the deposit instructions, I think it was $1,000, it said.
Yeah.
Single $1,000 deposit. And so there's a $35 non-refundable processing fee. So if you don't buy anything, you're only going to be out $35 participating in these sales.
Yeah, but also what we can show you here, if I back up here one, is what we're looking at here is for Bid for Assets, we're looking at their county tax sales. So if we were to go back to their homepage here, we go into their county tax sales portion of this site, and we can see that for July, they've got these sales listed right here. So for instance, with Riverside County here, this sale is a little bit weird because it's being treated like a resale in some ways, but some of the properties must not have been offered yet. And a lot of them aren't too bad, as I started looking through them. There's actually a lot of nice property in here.
Yeah, also a Bid for Assets, they kind of do the online auction portion of it a little bit weird, where they've got it set up in batches and you really can't see much information. So you can't see the opening bid price. All you can see is kind of just the basic information. So with Bid for Assets, one tip that we'll use, especially if it's a large list, is we'll download the list in the Excel file and research the list that way first, if it's a large list. So like 100 property list could take a while to go through using just kind of one by one.
Yeah. This particular list is about 30 properties long, and so it's not quite as big, and so it doesn't take as much time, but we can also get a pretty quick idea, looking over some of the different properties that are here to get an idea. So we see, a minimum bid of 39,000 on this property here. We've got a physical address for it right there, and then we can see here we've got the total assessed value at 223 with Yeah, that's 159 in improvements and 64 in land. And then there's also links to the, to the county GIS map.
And any additional information, but as we're looking here, we could quickly go and see what the Google Map view looks like, check it out through Zillow just to get an idea of what type of property values are within the area. Looks like a condo.
Yeah, or some kind of, it's like a duplex or
Townhouse.
Yeah, townhouse, something kind of like that, that we can see there.
It actually doesn't have a street side view.
No.
It must be a pretty new community. In fact, let's, grab that address and see what type of value they're pulling up on it. One thing that's interesting to just look at is, what is the assessed value versus kind of where Zillow has it. And then if we're really going to bid on the property, we're going to do a comparative market analysis. We're going to look at properties that have sold or currently for sale and really kind of determine how much we think the property is valued.
Yeah, we can get an idea about how far off they are. So, Zillow's estimating around 277 there. The county had it listed at 223. So some difference there, but not as big as I've seen. Yeah, not as big as we've seen on some properties there. So we can see that it's a nice property. On a lot of these, we actually end up getting, even photos of the property in a lot of these interior ones. But there's a broad mix of properties here, from commercial stuff into really lots of homes. Some big chunks of land that are available in this sale. In fact, somewhere here I've got the list written down. All the properties here. We've gone through several of them. In fact, yeah, here I can just pull this thing up right here. So what, number 1062 is at about a $16,000 opening bid and is valued at about, let's see here, what does that say? 288. So the numbers are really good there on the properties there that, and with this one, we've got one where the opening bid on it here is about 26,000 and it's estimated at 329.
Yeah.
And the total assessed on it is 187. So this is one where you've got a bigger gap between, that estimated value and, and what it might actually be worth.
Yeah, exactly.
It's also sitting on a full acre too.
Well, and that may be, taking into account the higher value in the property, through the estimate. Where, when you're just looking at an acre lot like that, really what, I would look at if you bought that property is subdividing that and essentially subdividing it so you could sell a lot.
Yeah, which you very well may be able to do. Let's see here. And then the other property here was this one I thought was interesting. This one right here, it opens up at 35,000. The county's estimated value on it was 230, which was 69 land value and 161 improvement value for 230, but estimated this one to be worth 449, so almost 450. And again, numbers that are way off, but for that $35,000 opening bid amount, they're starting under 10 cents on the dollar, which is awesome.
Yeah, well, it's always awesome when you can get some inside photos, even if they are older, because that's the biggest problem we have, or I guess the biggest obstacle with tax sale investing in structures. And it's part of the reason why with our coaching students, we help them do a couple of land deals before getting started with homes, is that, you can only view the home from the outside. You can't send over your inspector. You can't walk through the property. You've really got to judge the condition.
Yeah.
You got to judge the book by the cover.
Yeah, it's really limiting. We really don't know. We can't get precise estimates on things, so we have to guess. When it comes to structures, and that's just one of the risks that are associated with buying structures, in tax sales.
Yeah, should we check out some couple of other types of auctions?
Yeah, definitely.
So as we scroll down past California, we'll see, there's some of the Grant Street group auctions that will hold California auctions, and they usually do it once or twice a year. And then below that, we get into the Florida auctions where they have both real auction. Real auction, it has the most, but Grant Street Group does auctions there as well.
Yeah, so we have somebody like Bay County. So Real Auctions basically creates this website for them, and then they're able just to use this to manage their auctions. If we look here, coming up in July, they've got some sales here that they've got scheduled to take place. I know there's some fantastic properties on this list here, because I looked at them. In fact, let's see.
You just passed a bunch of pretty good looking properties. And really with an area like this, you can see how there's multiple sales taking place. And that's the reason we say, kind of play the long game with it, where you are putting in a deposit and you're bidding on properties until you can get the one at the price that you want.
Yeah, this is a commercial property here.
Oh yeah, that's a great looking property.
Yeah, we can see as we go back here, it was, I believe it was under renovation there at the time. This was a 2019 image, September of 2019. It's not that old.
No.
Really. And so, yeah,
if that ends up going to tax sale, you're looking at a $41,000 opening bid. It's showing an assessed value of 776, but I wouldn't be surprised if, it's worth over $1 million.
Yeah, it could easily be worth over $1 million. This one was an interesting one here, another commercial opportunity on this one, which opens up at 11,000, valued at 257, and I'll show you here. And what we have here is a little splash bar. You can see it's on Panama Beach, in Panama City, but you can see it's right here on the beach, or next to it here. So scroll down, we can see here's kind of the cabana part right here, and you've got the parking surrounding it here. And if we go down to the street level, we can see it here. It's actually called the splash bar.
Well, and even you could probably reset up the bar or do whatever you want that way, but really the location is key as well.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at it, basically the ocean is right here, or these, on the other side.
Yeah, so if somebody wanted to put a Starbucks or, some type of fast food restaurant or a gas station or anything like that.
Really has water on both sides, pretty quick.
It's a great location to do something like that.
Yeah, it really is. And this one right here is actually a great property to look at. This one here opens up at 16,000, valued at 386. And this one I've got to bring it up here and show you here, so I can get it to pull up here. So what we have here is this interesting looking contemporary home. Here, let me. There we go. So we can see the overhead image here of it. It's this house right here that we're looking at, and we'll go through some of these images they've got. I don't know why that's the first image here, but this is kind of an outside shot of the property. When it was maybe, I think it's probably not been lived in for the last year or so. From the outside, we'll go out there and look at it.
Yeah, this actually might have been the photos of right before it sold to this new buyer.
Yeah.
And in fact, that's one thing that we would look at if we were to look into buying this property or bidding on this property is how long has the owner owned it? How did they purchase it? And try to get as much information. And then we'd also go and research that owner's name to see if there's any governmental liens on the property, things like that we need to be aware of. But overlooking it, it's got a pool. I mean, it's a beautiful home.
Yeah, it really is. It really is a beautiful home to see there.
Coming up for the tax sale, you can't beat a nice property like that.
Yeah, it really is quite impressive here. And there are actually there are equally great properties if you're looking at in some of these subsequent sales. That we're looking at. I mean, you see a lot of properties that have tremendous values in low opening bids.
Well, and one thing we have noticed over the last couple of weeks is the bidding has not been aggressive as it has been in years past, or even especially in the recent past. We've noticed in some of the Texas auctions that are coming up, where a couple of months ago, the bidding was more aggressive. There were some really good deals picked up in some of these last auctions, some of the good properties picked up in some of these last Florida auctions. So if you are looking at a time to get started with tax sale investing, we really think this end part of 2020 really could be one of the best years ever for investors because of the lack of competition and the excess of property.
Yeah, so check out that. This one right here, another commercial opportunity, opens up at 31,000, valued at 720,000. And if we look at it, you can see it's this entire, this entire complex here with all of these little, with all these.
Yeah, a full mini mart. In fact, one thing we can do as well, if we were looking into the properties, would look into the county records, would look to, at the GSI maps to see what the property outlines are. But all of this type of information can be researched online, especially in a state like Florida, through their online records.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. There are such good opportunities here, and the records are easy to access. There are tons of great opportunities here, within these areas, and the numbers always work.
Yeah.
The numbers are always awesome on these. But there are other types of sales.
Yeah, in fact, let's scroll down a little further and we'll just even look at, there's Grant Street Group. Let's click on them real quick. We don't have to look in all the properties, but just to kind of.
Yeah, kind of show everybody what they look like here. So they've only got 3 items there. I wonder if they've got more. We look up, have 1 month, 15 items for July.
Yeah, so their auction's a little bit different. They're the way they look is a little bit different.
So this one started off with 26, but 11 have been canceled, so there's still 15 available. And we can see the style here is just drop-down box style.
Yeah. So if we were to click on the first drop-down, we can see an opening bid of 4,000, has an assessed value of 33,000. And if we click on that GSI map, probably get an idea of what the property is. Is it a trailer? No, a home lot?
It's just land, I think. It's actually, I think it's just
$55,000. It's a building lot.
Yeah, it's just a.
If $55,000 value though at $4,000 opening bid, that could be a property worth looking at.
Yeah. Let's see here. Let's like this one, 7,036.
Could be land too.
7,041. This one's a condo.
Yeah, let's look at the GSI map on that one, or I guess the parcel information too.
Let's see the parcel information. Some of these have photographs. So we can see, this is where that.
Yeah.
This is where that one's located at.
So we've got a condo open at $7,000.
Yeah, this one's probably homestead exemption. So see, you can see right here under homestead, if it says yes, what that means is that the home is qualified for the homestead exemption. So these homes automatically, they price at roughly 50% of value.
Yeah, I think they do 50%, and they can in some cases add on the taxes as well. So, with those properties, they can still be worth buying on, bidding on, but you're going to do a lot more research because the opening bid is probably going to start around 40 to 50% of the market value.
Yeah, let's see. So we can see
$17,000 one.
So here, so this one right here is, starts at 17,000, but the value of it is at 150. Let's take a look and see what this one is. I don't know, photos, maybe we'll go.
Oh, it's just land.
Oh, is that what it is?
Yeah.
Let's see. Oh yeah, it is. Yeah, just land.
I bet it's a nice piece of land though. That kind of value. Hope so.
Let's see.
Big.
Yeah, can't tell how accessible it is here. Trying to back it up here without overloading the system.
It's close to some subdivisions, not too far away.
Yeah, it has potential, but we have to look into it a little bit more here. But let's see, 30,000. That one's another homestead exemption one. You can see there. 18,000. This one is 337. Wow. This one's a condo unit.
Nice too. One too.
Yeah, this one looks like, this is a nice condo right there on the ocean.
Yeah, really nice. I'll bet it's got a high assessed value too. I mean, market value.
Yeah, I'll bet it does. You know, they're assessing it at 337, and Ocean Drive in Houndup Beach.
You know, what's interesting about this one is you see the mailing address is the same, but it's not Homestead.
Yeah.
You know, so it's probably a second home.
Yeah, let's see, what is that one for 1,000? That one's upside down, it looks like. This one's another one that has potential. It opens up at 12,000 at one, valued at 105. Let's see what that one looks like. Look at that one.
Wow, $69,000 opening bid worth 2.3 million.
Well, look at the addresses on like
University Drive.
Yeah, that's
wow.
Yeah, that's a big.
Look at the
business.
GSI map.
It's a high school, or it was like some kind of a high school. You're going to your way.
I want to see how big the land is.
All right, let's take a look at it here.
Bottom right there.
There we go.
So it's one full-size building.
Yeah, one.
Looks like there's a building to the side of it.
Yeah, let's go like this. Oh, wow, they actually have images in the parking lot of it. Mr. Police Officer.
You got a police officer parked right there.
Yeah, but you can see it.
Taking a break.
Yeah, it's a single story. I mean, it wasn't always a school, I doubt.
No.
You could use it for probably a lot of things.
You know, I almost want, I mean, it looks more like an office complex than a school. I wonder if it was kind of like not your traditional high school.
Yeah.
Like
yeah, this one, it said like your diploma your way. It was like a
work comp or something, some type of.
Yeah, like a mother's high.
Yeah. It's not the right way to say it.
Except that not the politically correct term.
No.
All right, let's see here. Yeah, that's not bad though. And that's only really the first page. Let's see if there's anything left there. That one's a condo as well. Yeah.
Well, these condos could be worth, 60 grand.
Yeah, a condo there.
70 grand starting out. And the one thing about these auctions is getting registered and bidding in July. And if you get the property, you want, great. If not, waiting to August and just continuing, waiting for those auctions to come up. Bidding.
Well, good. At least they're still doing their tax deed sales here. Some of those counties have slowed down. It's crazy. But yeah, we can check out some of the other ones as well. This is Palm Beach County, just to kind of see what theirs are. We can also go back and check the results of past sales, which is also a good way to kind of gauge what the competition's like in an area.
Yeah.
So yeah, tons of really good properties, in there to look at. Also before we forget, I don't want to go too long and not give people, we were going to give away strategy calls.
Yeah. In fact, last weekend we sent out an email to our newsletter list, and for the first 20 people that registered, we set up a strategy session with one of our coaches.
Yeah.
And so we want to do that again tonight. So the first 10 people that register, in fact, if you actually attended the webinar, we'll go ahead and honor and set you up an appointment with one of our coaches.
Yeah, definitely. We're happy to do that. And we can probably give you an idea about what the best direction is to move ahead. We've got a lot of experience with this, and also with helping people do this.
Yeah, exactly. What we'll have you do is, fill out your information, and we'll also send you an email with some ebooks and a video to watch, and then really during that strategy session is to kind of figure out where you're at, what your goals are, and then get you pointed in the right direction with one of our investor profiles.
Yeah, so I put a link down in the chat section at the bottom that you can access here. If you go down there, there's a link there that you can click on, and that link will pull up this page right here that you can fill out, and that will help you basically put in the information so that we can help you get it scheduled.
Yeah, exactly. So once you fill that out, we'll send that over to our coaching team, and they'll go ahead and get you set up with an appointment with one of our tax sale coaches.
Yeah, which we'd be happy to do. You know, and kind of in closing in all of this, online auctions are really the future of where tax sales are going and where it's going to be. And there are tons of opportunities out there. The opportunities are only growing.
Yeah, I mean, we just scratched the surface of the online auctions. I mean, we could go through all of the rest. We were just the very, we were only in Florida.
Yeah.
And we were going over, bypassing tons. Plus, we have the tax lien auctions. We have the redemption deed auctions like Louisiana and like Texas that are happening now on a monthly basis. Michigan's going to be opening up their auctions within a couple months.
Yeah, New York counties, a lot of those are just waiting, chomping at the bit to start their auctions, and some of them are going to be starting up soon.
Yeah, so there's a ton of opportunity out there for investors that are willing. Ohio, started their auctions.
Oh yeah, Unreal Auction.
Yeah, and started adding their auctions as well. So there's just a lot of opportunity out there for investors that are willing to get registered. And from what we've seen, this could really be a great time to get awesome deals.
Yeah. So yeah, if you would like to do that personal consultation to get an idea of what to do, you can use that link down there at the bottom. Otherwise, if you're just looking for training, I think in tax sale is the membership program is probably about the best thing we can offer.
Yeah,
it's not a lot of money and you can get a lot out of it.
Well, what we did is they used to sell our home study program for $2,000 to $3,000. The seminar companies did, and they would put it in fancy books and CDs. But what we decided to do is just take that information, make it digital, make it online, make it streaming, and then just put it for a low monthly fee. And so really, you're not going to find a better value when it comes to tax sale education, where we're doing weekly webinars. You have access to all of our tax sale list, our over 1,000 pages of training material.
Yeah, it includes a ton of content that you download and can train with in the beginning, plus all the past trainings they do, plus we do the live webinars, plus all the,
Yeah, I mean, just even looking at the training center, you can see all of the things, the course library, the web, I mean, we have, hundreds of hours worth of webinar replays. And that doesn't include all of the over-the-counter list, the online auctions, the auction calendar, our state profiles. It really is the best value. And not only that, we offer the money-back guarantee for 30 days where you can try it out. Most students decide to stay on with us. Some will stay on for a few months until they're ready, until they've got the knowledge, and some will continue to stay on with us for years.
Yeah, that's the best part is there's no obligation on it.
Yeah, you can cancel at any time.
Yeah, and so yeah. Now let's see here. I'm just gonna check out here. If you guys have any questions, you're welcome to send those in, and we'll do our best to answer those. But I think it pretty well covers the content that we've got for the day.
Yeah, and if anyone attended this webinar and they want one of the strategy sessions, we'll go ahead and honor that. So just fill out the form and we'll get you registered. I'll get the call set up.
Yeah. Hey, thanks everybody for joining us. Have a great evening, and we hope your summer's going great.
Yep. Thanks again, everyone.